Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is a review of the 1996 Christmas comedy, Jingle All The Way. Now, this is not what I would call one of my favorite comedies, let alone one of my favorite Christmas films, but it's still a film that I do have fun with. In large part, it's due to Arnold's performance in this film. Arnold is approaching this plot and his character here with wild abandon and sheer exuberance, and it really does go a long way. And you can tell that he's having the time of his life being a part of this madcap, crazy movie, and as a result, it's a pretty entertaining film, despite its flaws and despite the times where it runs low on batteries. The film was directed by Brian Levant, and I thought, for the most part, he did a good job, especially when it comes to the sequences that needed to be turbocharged with kinetic force and all of this chaos. The sequences in the department store, the shots in the toy store with the bouncy ball. Speaking of bouncy, there is a lot of bounce to this direction. And the whole film is very campy, it's very over the top, it's very cartoony. So the bouncy direction really does fit with the overall product. And I think Levant was the right guy to capture that madcap manic nature of the film. But there are other moments that are genuinely sweet and pretty epic, like the whole stuff with the Turbo Man TV show in the beginning. That actually looked quite cinematic and better than any episode that I've seen of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which is clearly what the inspiration was behind that. And then you have moments like the parade sequence. It was shot in a way that definitely had a lot of size and scope to it. So I felt that Brian Levant, he did a really solid job here directing the film, also working with his actors, letting them improvise, letting them run wild. And while there are things about the film that I feel are a little bit exhausting, a little bit tiresome, for instance, the energy of the film, the sugar rush, at times, it really drives you up the wall, and it can become not really the best experience, and something that you get tired of pretty quickly. But thankfully, the sugar rush, it doesn't last consistently throughout the entire film. It does have moments where it stops and takes a break, and there are these other scenes in the film that balance out the sugar and the schmaltz and the cartoon nature of it all. Now, the screenplay by Randy Cornfield, I feel at times, no pun intended here, it is a little too corny in terms of the dialogue, in terms of some of the gags. But then there's other times where it's surprisingly twisted and a really great roast on the ridiculousness of this obsession that people have for the latest, greatest new toy for the Christmas season. In this film, it's Turbo Man, but it was clearly inspired by the Tickle Me Elmo craze or the Cabbage Patch Kids craze, where parents were stepping over other parents to get these toys for their kids, completely ignoring the real spirit of Christmas. And I think Jingle All the Way is one of the best films that really skewers and really pokes fun at that part of the holiday season. And it makes it very refreshing because you don't see a whole lot of holiday films that take that approach. They try to ignore that, or in some ways glorify it, which is the complete opposite of what you should do with a holiday film, to glorify this mania that occurs around the Christmas season. Nowadays, it wouldn't be a toy, it would be a PlayStation 5, or it would be something that would happen on Black Friday, but it's still something that definitely occurs to this day. It's this mania that takes over certain individuals around the holiday season, and things just get absolutely insane. And I feel that the film is at its best when it puts a spotlight on that insanity. And I feel that the screenplay does a great job doing that when it has that focus. When it's trying to deal with the family drama, it's pretty tired and true and been there, done that, and predictable and cliched. The humor is hit and miss. There are some scenes that'll make you just fall down laughing. But I don't even know if it's really necessarily the writing that's so funny. I think what makes this film so hilarious at times is the fact that it's Arnold Schwarzenegger in this role. It's Arnold on the floor, just being absolutely desperate, saying, "He's got to," it's, or, the whole thing where he's waiting outside the door to get into the toy store, and he's like, "Because of 2 minutes." It's because it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. It makes it funnier to see him really embrace the insanity of last minute Christmas shopping. If it was any other actor in this role, I don't think it would be nearly as funny. Like, for instance, the whole stuff with Phil Hartman answering the phone when Howard's calling home, wants to speak to his wife, and he gets his neighbor instead. And his neighbor is eating his wife's cookies, and he's going way overboard with it. He's like, "Ugh, these cookies. I've got to get the recipe. Put the cookie down now." That's that line alone is not really that laugh out loud hilarious. But with Arnold being the one that's saying it, it's absolutely uproarious. And I think that's the key to the film's best laughs and the film's best gags and the film's best moments, is Arnold in this fish out of water scenario. And Arnold just going all out here with the film. Because there are some stuff that I don't like. The ending of this movie, I think it's really clunky. I think it's a really good way to put it. It's a very clunky climax, especially some of the messages that it conveys, and how it wraps up things in a bow. I don't think it really ties up things very well. For instance, the stuff with Myron, Sinbad's character. He gets the Turbo Man doll at the end. Jamie gives it to him so he can give it to his son. And I understand the thought process behind that. It's about Christmas spirit and doing the right thing. And the toy was never really that important because I have my own Turbo Man and my dad. I get it. But there was not a single scene that showed that Myron deserved the doll. Myron deserved to stay in jail, and that's really about it. Sometimes life isn't all sugar cookies. Sometimes when you make mistakes and you go as far as characters like Myron do, your kid is not going to get what he wants for Christmas because of your actions. And I feel that it was just a really awkward, just janky message with the whole way that things unfolded and ended with Myron's character. It doesn't help either that he just seems to like flip a switch and all of a sudden is like a nice guy after trying to kill the kid or you know, or doing all this other crazy shit, threatening to blow up the radio station so he could get the gift certificate so he could get a Turbo Man doll for his kid. It's like one of those things where I get it. He's succumbing to the madness of the moment, but he takes things so far that he becomes a legit criminal, and at that point, he shouldn't be getting rewarded for any of that. In fact, neither Myron or Howard deserved the doll. Their behavior was despicable. Howard almost stole his neighbor's gift for his son from under the Christmas tree. Like he actually did steal it. He stole it and he was about to put it back under the tree, but he got caught. So they're doing things that are just straight up despicable and totally against the spirit of Christmas. So really, no one deserved the doll. Even the kid doesn't deserve the doll. Jamie doesn't deserve it either. So I really feel that it was a missed opportunity when it comes to the screenplay to provide a better message. And I feel a good way to do that is to have Jamie give the toy to someone else in the audience, or better yet, give the toy to charity. Give it like Toys for Tots or something. Then you have a shot of some kid who doesn't have anything and wasn't going to get any gifts for Christmas, and he gets the Turbo Man doll. That, to me, is a much better message to convey than you can be a total asshole and try to drop a kid from the top of a building for a Turbo Man doll, and you'll still get the doll, and you'll still be able to, you know, give a gift to your kid for Christmas. It's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. That's a really mixed message, to say the least. And there's a lot of moments with the tone where it's just a little off, like the stuff with Phil Hartman's character. I love Phil Hartman, may he rest in peace, and he does a good job with this clingy, desperate guy called Ted. But I think the screenplay takes it a little too far at times with his creepy nature. It goes into rapey territory, especially in the scenes with Rita Wilson. And in those scenes, it's not funny. It's just creepy and disturbing. And I don't really feel it fits with what the film was trying to go for. It does have a twisted nature to it. I mean, there's a bomb joke, which was actually pretty funny and probably one of the few moments where Sinbad really made me laugh in terms of his line delivery. Because for the most part, he's very one note. He's just shouty. That's really a good way to put it. He's just very shouty in this film. But that's kind of his shtick anyway. He's a shouty comedian. But yeah, even though there are twisted moments, that really doesn't work. The whole stuff with the neighbor being really rapey towards Howard's wife. But in terms of other aspects of the film that I thought didn't quite work, the slapstick humor at times got on my nerves. There are moments where it is hilarious, like in the black market Santa's workshop scene where Arnold is fighting the Big Show and smacks Vern Troyer so hard he flies 10 feet backwards. There was a lot of fun to be had with those moments, or the stuff with the bouncy ball and Arnold going through the play place, trying to get the ball from that kid. But then there are moments where it's just, you're just like, really? We really don't need to go this far. The stuff with the jetpack, it went on way too long with the slapstick, with him spinning out of control and not being able to control the jetpack. It doesn't help either that the CGI is really dated looking, even for the time. And the whole scene looks very cheap. The blue screen, the green screen. I think Levant's direction in that scene was definitely pretty weak. Too many like up close shots of Arnold, relied too much on sound effects and Arnold's facial reactions. And I always felt that that scene, even as a kid, was really embarrassing for Arnold. Just flying around, acting like a total goober. Just, I don't really care for that scene. And there are some other moments that are of similar nature that don't really rub me the right way, so to speak. But I still think this script is above average for the fact that it's willing to skewer this part of the Christmas season. And there are some nice bits of satire that are thrown in there, and some genuine bits of humor and hilarity, even though there's stuff that kind of overstay their welcome, like how Arnold constantly runs into this cop played by, I think it's Robert Conrad. Yeah, keeps running into this guy, and it just it was tolerable at first, but then it just got to the point where it felt like it was beating a dead horse. So, yeah, I'm not a 100% fan of this script, but it definitely has some moments where it does shine. The performances by the cast are very lively, and pretty much everyone is game for the proceedings. Arnold's line delivery in this is not his finest hour. I'm going to be honest here. There are some moments where it's a little stilted, a little stiff. That being said, his energy, his charisma, his ability to just say fuck it and have fun really makes this performance work despite its cracks. Sinbad as Myron, I would say it's arguably his best performance on film, but that's not saying much. I think he's a very limited actor, and I would have loved to have seen Joe Pesci in this role because Chris Columbus, he wanted Joe Pesci, but the studio was like, ah, he's too short. Arnold's too big. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Arnold starred in multiple films with Danny DeVito. Like, why could Joe Pesci not work? Joe Pesci already showed that he can be intimidating, but not in a way that feels like it's too much of a threat. He already showed that he can be fun. He can have fun with this kind of concept, and he can do the physical stuff because he did a lot of that in the Home Alone films. So it really would have been a blast to see Joe Pesci square off against Arnold Schwarzenegger. And if you couldn't get Joe Pesci, I got some other out of the box casting ideas. Maybe someone like Damon Wayans. Damon Wayans has that energy. He has that cartoon vibe. Like he can really play a cartoon character. So that would have been fun to see Damon Wayans and his energy square off against Arnold. Or maybe even David Allen Greer, who showed that he has a lot of range as an actor. Or maybe even someone like Jamie Foxx. Because it seems like maybe they were going Sinbad because they were trying to go with an actor who was an up and comer. You could, if you wanted to kind of go with that, you could maybe have Jamie Foxx. So I just find it really hard to believe that Sinbad was like their first choice. And apparently he wasn't. I think it was Arnold's agent that recommended him. And initially Sinbad, I think he was busy with other things, so he kind of wasn't thinking about doing it, but then he showed up for an audition and ultimately got the part. But yeah, I can deal with Sinbad in this, but I would have loved to have seen Pesci or Damon Wayans or Jamie Foxx or David Allen Greer, but that's just me personally. Phil Hartman, he's just a really good actor when it comes to playing these kind of characters, and it's a really inspired bit of casting. Rita Wilson, I thought she did a really nice job playing the wife of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Jake Lloyd, though, he's terrible. Jake Lloyd is easily one of the worst things about this movie. One of the big reasons why I don't love this film, other than the moments where it runs out of batteries or it gets too grating for me, is because of Jake Lloyd. He's a terrible actor. I don't buy any of his line delivery. Nothing about it is authentic. I don't know why studios thought that he was going to be this next big thing as a kid actor. I got why people thought Macaulay Culkin was on the rise. I don't get why Jake Lloyd is on the rise. Just because he has a certain look doesn't mean that he's a good kid actor. I always thought he was a bad actor. Even, not even just solely with his stint in episode 1, but here as well. Even as a kid, I thought he sucked. A friend of mine mentioned Mason Gamble from Dennis the Menace, and I'm like, that would have been so much better. Because he has a lot of screen time, and he just comes across as a bratty kid. You don't like him. You don't care if he gets the Turbo Man doll. And also, there's so many scenes where it's supposed to be emotional, like when he gets angry at his dad on the phone, but it's not believable because Jake Lloyd is such a bad actor. I understand he went through a lot growing up, and that sucks, and that's unfortunate, and he didn't deserve that, but I'm not going to hold back. He sucked. He sucked as a kid actor. He didn't deserve to get bullied mercilessly growing up because he sucks so much, but there's some truth to a lot of people's criticisms about him. Not some, there is a lot of truth to a lot of critics criticisms about his acting talent. And I am in 100% agreement of those criticisms. And there's some other actors and actresses. Martin Mull is also in this as like the radio host at the radio station. And you have Robert Conrad. And you have some cameos by other well-known comedians like Lorraine Newman, Harvey Korman, and Richard Mull. You also have Curtis Armstrong, Booger from Revenge of the Nerds. He plays Booster. And then you also have Jim Belushi. I really enjoyed the scenes with Arnold and Jim Belushi. They still had great chemistry, and that's another potential option for being the foil for Arnold in this. Jim Belushi. They still had excellent chemistry. He still could do the physical stuff. Maybe he wasn't as big of a star at the time, but I don't think this film was really going to need another big star because Sinbad isn't really that big of a star. So you could have still had Jim Belushi be the comic foil for Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it would have been a reunion for the two. It would have been Red Heat 2 with this time around Arnold's partner is fallen on really hard times and he's gone to the dark side and now they're enemies. And that would have helped the film a lot too. Because Sinbad, he's fine, but he's nothing special and he's nothing great. But you get a glimpse of what could be with the scenes with Arnold and Jim together again. And if you had that for the whole movie, that has potential to be a lot better than what the film ultimately wound up being. The music, um, the score here, by David Newman definitely sounds like a lot of his other scores. I think he's the guy who did the score for the Mighty Ducks, and there's a lot of Mighty Ducks kind of notes in this. At times it's a little bit too bombastic, a little bit too sugar cookie. Other times it's just really forgettable. It's just one of those scores that I'm not super big on, but I also don't hate it. It's just in the middle for me. The cinematography by Victor J. Kemper, it's fine. There are some moments where it looks a little flat. The editing by Kent Beta, Wilton Henderson, and Adam Weiss, I feel it's a well edited film. It's a movie that really has a lot of breakneck speed and energy to it at times. So you really need to have some solid editing to make that all work. And I feel that's definitely at place. And that's definitely a big part of this film. And it's only like 89 minutes, so it goes by at a really good pace. I never really found the film to be boring. It never lost my interest enough to the point where I wanted to shut it off or watch something else. I know there's an extended cut. I prefer the theatrical cut. The extended scenes I don't think really add that much to the film, and they do hurt the pacing, and some of the music choices that are used in the extended cut are not as good as the music choices in the theatrical version. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about Jingle All the Way except it's a fun movie. It's not great, but it's a fun Christmas comedy that'll definitely put you in the mood when it comes to the holiday spirit. And thanks for watching my review. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.